Hello friends! So today I wanted to talk about one of the incredible stories that happened to me a few years ago. You might know that I am French, I am a music producer, musician, and pretty much I managed to go from a small French village all the way to the Grammys multiple times in different styles of music. And actually what happened is that my first 2 weeks in Los Angeles, within these first 2 weeks, the two first albums I worked on received 3 Grammy nominations and sold 10 million copies worldwide. So, you know, for a lot of aspiring producers and writers and all that stuff, I think it's a good story to share because it will give you really good insight on how things like that can happen, you know, because it's obviously a dream that a lot of people would like to achieve. So I'm going to share how it happened. So I think a huge mistake that people do, they come to the US or to Los Angeles and they hope that something is going to happen. And they end up struggling for years. And sometimes maybe something happens and most of the time it doesn't happen. And you know, sometimes they leave and they just forget about their dreams and that's it. I think it's a terrible way of doing things. It's not the right way to do things. For me, it happened because way ahead of my first trip to Los Angeles, I was working on my craft like not many do. Meaning, I used to practice my piano 10 hours a day. I transcribed hundreds of albums to really understand how hit songs were made, how arrangements were built. And when you work so hard on your craft, at some point you start to be decent, you know, good, decent. And if you work so hard that at some point people start to talk about it, you know, because there's so few people nowadays who are willing to take the time to work on their craft because we are in a society of instant gratification. People want everything now, that's it. No, if you want to build strong skills that can potentially impact the world, that takes a lot of time, patience. It teaches you as well to be pretty humble. I think the more you learn, the more you feel that you don't know anything. So I love to learn. It's a big passion of mine. But basically, that's the idea. You know, I used to be really hardcore on the learning process. I studied like crazy. And of course, at some point, people talk, you know. And guess what? I didn't come to the US by myself. I ended up being invited by the biggest people in my field, in music. That's it. It changes everything, you know. So this is exactly how, within the first 2 weeks, I worked on these two huge albums. So that was Leona Spirit, her first album, which I think sold around... I have a big plaque for it over there. This plaque at the time when we made it was like 7 million copies worldwide. It's probably close to 9 million copies worldwide right now. And the second album I worked on was Anthony Hamilton, The Point of It All, which I worked on that with Heavy D, the hip-hop legend, rapper, incredible artist, legendary artist. And the funny story is that at the time, I didn't even know who he was. So that was... pretty hilarious, you know. But that's exactly what happened. So it shows you the importance of working on your craft. Because I'm telling you, nowadays, in 2017, almost nobody does that. So if you do that, it's a huge edge already. And if you become so good, I'm telling you, people talk. Really, people talk, you know. And that brings connections, opportunities. So what happened to me exactly is that I was still living in the French countryside and a friend introduced me to one of the biggest actresses in Hollywood and her husband, who is a music executive. And I met them in Paris, we had a great time, and they said, okay, we're gonna see what we can do for you in Hollywood. I was like, great. So we stayed in touch. And they did introduce me to Walter A., who is one of the biggest songwriters of all time. He's responsible for the song Hero with Mariah Carey. He did the Titanic song, the movie, the Barbara Streisand stuff, the Kenny G. I mean, he worked for everybody, Michael Jackson. And we started to talk, and boom, he invited me to Los Angeles. So I flew from my French countryside all the way to Los Angeles. And the first week, working on the Leona album, he was finishing the song. My contribution was small to it. But hey, you know, you have to start somewhere, and that's it. So I contributed to the arrangement. I added some sounds in there. I did some parts. That was my first gig ever. That's it in the US. It became a huge album, as I said. And the second week, other friends introduced me to Heavy D. And so Heavy D is the hip-hop legend. And we did some tracks together, which got placed 2 months later to Anthony Hamilton, The Point of It All, which got 2 Grammy nominations. I have plaques for that as well, some here. My big plaque walls is here, like on that side, so you don't see it. But I'm sure you saw it on a lot of pictures, right? So yeah, I wanted to share that because I love to be around educated people. And I feel, especially in the music industry, that people are highly uneducated, especially in 2017. So I highly encourage you to really study your craft, become one of the best. And instead of coming to Los Angeles or doing a big move without knowing anybody, without having any connections, no. First, become really, really good. Not even really good, but way above average at what you do. And then you can start to show that to the world. You can communicate on social medias and make sure that people know how good you are, right? And then opportunity comes. So Walter invited me to Los Angeles. But guess what? He was not even the only person who invited me. So I had actually choices. And I mean, it's crazy. When I got to Los Angeles, 2 hours later, I was at Westlake Studios where Michael Jackson recorded with Quincy Jones. I was right into it, and I see most of my friends moving to Los Angeles and struggling for years trying to do something. But for me, it starts by how good you are at what you do. It's absolutely obvious, but looks like, it's not obvious to a lot of people, so I don't get it. And guess what? Do you think I had a hard time to get my immigration papers after that? Of course not. It was easy. I easily got my first O1 visa for extraordinary ability. And do you think I had a hard time to get my green card? Of course not. It was approved in 3 months. It was very easy. So basically, after my first month in LA, other crazy things happened. I was hanging with, I met Diane Warren on my first month. I had 3 meetings with Justin Timberlake. I mean, it just was really crazy. I went back to France. I actually happened to have other placements that happened. I got a song with a Timberland artist in a Ben Stiller movie. I got a song placed with one of the top K-pop boy band. Thanks to connections I did online actually, through the social media MySpace at the time, which was huge at the time. So that shows you the power. So, from my French countryside, I managed to make some of the biggest connections you can dream of in Hollywood, but also play songs with some of the biggest artists worldwide. So, when stuff like that happens, yeah, then you're ready to go. You can go wherever you want. People are going to listen to you a bit more, definitely. So then, basically my first manager when I moved to the US was actually Beyonce's A&R. Actually, I have to thank Beyonce's father, Matthew Knowles, who introduced me to Max, who became my first manager in the US. And he introduced me then to Dale Kawashima. Dale was Michael Jackson and Prince publisher a few years ago. And I ended up doing a publishing deal with him. And it was a great team. So they introduced me to a lawyer to potentially get my green card. And, I was approved in 3 months, and that was easy, And you see all these people struggling for getting that, fighting for getting that. But I'm like, why don't you work on your craft? I mean, don't you want to be educated and be around people who do amazing stuff and being a part of amazing projects that potentially can change the world? If you have this mindset, you don't have issues with immigration. I mean, you know, like most of my friends, I see that they're struggling with that. They want their green card, but I'm like, sure, but why don't you actually like do really cool stuff? Like, you know, like, come on, work on something and become an authority. You know, this is what it's called. Become a leader, an authority, and all these things are going to be details. You know, I was not like, you know, like afraid of not having my green card of stuff. It's like, I mean, it was making sense, you know. So if you focus on your craft, which is the basic thing, I mean, if you want to be an actress, you know, most people come to Los Angeles to be an actress or a musician. Well, I guess you have to be good at some point, you know. And I'm telling you, most of the things I saw in the music industry, people are not good, you know. This is just the reality. It's like, for me, 85% of the people in this circle are not at the right place. Because, to me, they are pollution. You know, this is really what it is, because you have tons of people who are not educated, trying to do some things, who are just like, you know, polluting the environment. That's what it is. And it's the same thing regarding music executives. I think it's even worse in that field, you know. So that's it, you know. As you know, I speak my mind. I think it's very important. And I wanted to tell you my story because I think it can really trigger a new way of thinking for you and how you approach things and maybe your career. I've actually been doing a lot of mentoring and speaking lately. I actually started to mentor students, music students, artists since I'm 19 years old. I was asked to come and share, you know, like the things I studied at this early age because I've been addicted to studying since I'm 15, 16 years old. You know, I just learn, I just eat knowledge every single day. I love it. I absolutely love it, you know. And when you hang with, you know, really cool people who are like incredibly successful, billionaires and stuff, most of them, that's what they do. So, you know, when I see that, it just shows me that, yeah, it's probably a good idea to keep learning every single day, to be able to do all these cool projects and share it with the world. And of course, you know, when you don't stop, it obviously inspires other people also to go for their dreams. And that's definitely the goal, you know. So that's why I'm sharing this. Because I see too many people struggling or not doing it the right way. So it's very important for me to share what I think is very important, especially when I see that it's not being talked about. You know, as I say very often, I think most influencers nowadays are dumbing down society. And I like to fight against that. I like to show that knowledge is sexy. And thanks to knowledge, you can achieve cool stuff. Like these things, you know. So that's it. That's what I wanted to share. I have a lot of things to talk about, so I will share a lot of things on this channel. You're welcome to subscribe. You can ask questions below. You can easily find me online. You can, you know, join my bunch of like followers here. You know, that's the cool thing too. When you work on cool projects, well, you know, people get excited and start to be like, oh, I need to follow this person. That's it, guys. That's my way of thinking, my way of doing it. Hopefully, it will help you in whatever you're doing, because it can be applied to any field, not just music. So, that's it. All right? Cool. Talk to you soon.